Go. We're live.
Hello,
Hey everybody,
hello.
this is Matt from the Crusaders, and just want to join us tonight. Obviously, Will and Sarah, and then Robert Likarish from Ironroot tonight. And Chris Bourbinsane will be here in a few minutes. We're waiting for him to get back from his job. So let's get started.
How's it going, everybody?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Robert. Hello, everybody.
All right, so let's see who's in the chat. Let's
Drinking Texas whiskeys.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Donald Rance, Christopher David. Let's see who else. There's a bunch of them. Doug Tempest, Travis Wallard, Spencer Mav. Let's see, same people over and over and over.
No, Carl Ivy's in. That's always dangerous.
What now?
Carl Ivy's in. That's always dangerous.
Carlton. All right, the legend.
The legend.
Excellent. So let's say we got DJ Bacon, Mark Goins, let's see, Richie Z, Captain Make It Happen, Andrew Sproul, DJ Bacon, let's see, Carl Ivy, Stellar Matrix, Adam Gustone, Bourbon Professor. So say hello to everybody tonight. Everybody, we're drinking Texas whiskey. We're just waiting on Bourbinsane to show up. So we'll just kind of get started and talk about, I guess let's talk about Ironroot before waiting on Chris. So Robert, why don't you tell us a little bit about Ironroot?
Oh, well, we're a small grain-to-glass distillery in Denison, Texas. We specialize in the use of heirloom varietals of grain and using kind of French cognac techniques for aging whiskey here in Texas. So I guess that's kind of the quick 5-minute spiel on it.
Like the 30-second spiel.
30-second spiel,
Yeah,
sorry.
right?
Elevator pitch right there.
It's all good. Sorry. Had to kill
Robert helped make some of our favorite whiskeys down here in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I think Ironroot is probably the YouTube whiskey tuber in general fan favorite. I don't think there's really any doubt about that anymore.
I agree.
So I mean, for everybody this is what they make: beautiful, glorious whiskey. It's some of the best whiskey there is, not just in Texas, but in the whole country, for sure. It's just really great. There's so many different combinations. I love the fact you guys different corn varietals, and just with corn, you do so many different things, and there's so many different kinds, and it's not just Yellow Dent number 2.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, it pairs really well with barbecue.
Yes, it does.
Which I guess making in Texas, I guess it should pair well with barbecue.
This is a good point.
We're not hitting that note. We're not doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Dremen just joined us. All right. So what's everybody in the chat drinking? You guys drinking some Texas whiskeys along with us tonight? See what everybody's drinking in there.
Or is everybody sticking Canadian to for the theme of the day? Matt shakes his head. No, God.
No. Sorry, Donald. No, you guys keep all the freaking good Canadian stuff to yourselves. We don't get any of it. We get this crappy freaking Texas crowned crab.
Tech 187 asked me if there's any Ironroot available in Ohio. Not yet. One of those state-controlled liquor stores, and they're much more difficult to get into than some of the other states. So, not quite yet.
Working on it though.
Yeah, I mean, we're always working on trying to get into everywhere. At least get a little bit of whiskey in a lot of different places. That's kind of the goal. But right now, I mean, honestly, this year we're having to cut back. We actually have a waiting list for single barrels right now, just because I don't have enough whiskey to get everybody this year. So hopefully, again, we're laid down a lot more whiskey this year. So in the next 3-4 years, there'll be quite a bit more. But again, also still trying to age everything up beyond that kind of 3-year mark, which is kind of where most of our whiskey's at right now. But we will be releasing a few 5-year-olds this year, which is kind of exciting because it's like actually well-aged whiskey. So I'm pretty excited to see how that's going to turn out this year.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Donner Pass Whiskey joined us. James, Dustin says, you guys need to get into Party Source in Kentucky. I agree. You guys need to if you guys get in there, that would be awesome for you guys. For sure.
And we've got Total Wine in Kentucky. We do have I think the Harbinger 115 is available. It should be at least.
Oh, awesome. Well, that works then. Yeah, see, Linux Cat just joined us. Mark Goins, Patrick Cohn. Let's see. So we got lots of fun sipping on some 14-year. Oh yeah, have you had that new Quincy Bourbon, the 14-year? I have not seen that yet in Texas at all.
I haven't. I've had an older version of it, but not the new one.
Yeah, I've just had the 12-year, but yeah, that works. Well, hopefully Chris will be here. Just waiting on him to get home from his job. But hey. So, anyways, we'll talk about some of the stuff we did in the last few days. So we weren't live last week because we were all both on vacation. So me and my family went up to Michigan, up to Traverse City. I actually got to tour a couple of really cool distilleries, crafts up there. Traverse City Whiskey Co. and then also Grand Traverse was the other cool one we had to try. So we got a box of their whiskeys, and hopefully we'll be doing it soon. We'll be able to get in contact with them, do some cool reviews with the guys up there. And Chris actually is in Michigan, just joined us. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
I am here. How are you doing?
Good. Where's all your
How's it going, Chris?
Someone robbed you.
How's my my mic sound? I just moved my desk completely around, so I don't know if my settings are right.
Sounds fine.
Sounds fun.
All right, good. How's everyone doing tonight?
We're
Good.
good. Where's your whiskey? That's the question.
Ready to drink.
I got my samples.
All right.
Right? Yeah. So many samples.
Stellar Matrix wants to know, you can get in Oklahoma City, can you get Ironroot?
Not Oklahoma's. Well, technically, yes. I'm actually working on with a club out there. We'll actually be starting to send some of the whiskeys this year. Before that, again, Oklahoma just changed all their laws over, which I'm sure they know. And they used to get all of the spirits for Oklahoma out of the Dallas warehouse for Southern Glazers who were with. And so every time I would send out whiskey for Oklahoma, the Dallas market would steal it all and didn't allow any of it to go up to Oklahoma. So
Sounds about right.
I'm finally forcing a few things. So be watching
Sounds like
end of the year, beginning of next year for some whiskey here up in OKC.
Sorry, we steal it all, apparently. All right. So Bill, the Whiskey Dictionary, just joined in. Eric Waite is in here now as well.
Hello,
Check
Eric. Hello,
it out.
Bill.
Bill. Hey, Eric.
So guys,
How's it going, guys?
So we got some good stuff. So which one do you want to start with there, Chris? You want to just do blinds, or
I think I'll just
grab one?
Andrew, you're asking about Spokane. I don't know if there's a total wine in Spokane, you'll be able to find it, but I don't think there is. But while you're in Spokane, definitely go visit Dry Fly Distilling there. They've got a pretty good little setup, and I think they're like 15 years old, or something like that. So pretty good little distillery right there in Spokane.
We'll see. ADH Dishing joined us. Ben Stahl wants to know where can you get any of the special releases of Ironroot at? Besides, obviously, up at the distillery.
The distillery is going to be the best bet. It really depends on which release he's looking for. Hubris right now, there's a few bottles here and there around the DFW area, but everywhere else it's sold out at. Except we've got a couple cases still at the distillery. Icarus, we had a store in Allen, Texas, that actually bought the entire allotment except for like 4 cases. Wow. Which was I did not know about at the time. So there's one store that has a lot of Icarus, and that's about it. So, but yeah, if you're in the DFW area, I could probably point you to a couple stores, but yeah, I was trying to get some out to Houston and Austin, some other areas, and it all got bought up. So again, sometimes stores do that. Oh, I didn't hear you.
I blame Josh for the Austin area.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, Josh has the entire allotment for the Austin area. I'm pretty sure his house.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures.
There you go.
Probably right.
So, Chris, what'd you grab?
Hey, Carl,
that's
the green.
Whoa.
Yeah, just pull one out of there.
All right.
I'm ready for some whiskey.
All right. This is a good one. Andalusia Striker.
All right.
Ooh, I'm going to
Smoked
join you on
single
that.
malt.
Of course, it's the one.
Cap and Make It Happen. Empire Liquor in Allen is what you're looking for.
I'll be in here.
Yeah, and Gretchen says they're trying to sell Ironroot down there in Austin as well. Yes, we know. I thought I all lived at your house, Gretchen. I thought that was kind of the plan. And
Yeah, I think they've got more Ironroot at their house than I have at my house.
Yeah, I guess Carl wants to know what kind of corn is in the esoteric.
That's going to be green Oaxacan corn if it's batch 1, which, I guess we haven't released batch 2 quite yet. But esoteric's kind of a crazy line for us. We do every year we blend it together with our kind of experimental mash bills. Mm-hmm. Half of it gets bottled and the other half gets put back into barrel, which is why it's an American whiskey, not like a bourbon or corn whiskey or anything like that. So we're constantly every year blending in some new experimental whiskeys. So it's kind of like a bastardized Solera.
That works.
Mm-hmm. So I don't have Striker, but I do have Revenant Oak port cask ones. That's repeated. But I do love me some Andalusia. Especially, they've got a sherry cask right now, a PX cask that they're aging stuff in, and it is phenomenal. I cannot wait for that one to come out.
I'm looking forward to that too now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So this is the Striker, and this one is done with it's smoked with 3 different kinds of woods, with oak, mesquite, and apple woods. So this is a really nice smoky Texas whiskey. Pairs nicely with barbecue, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think immediately on this the apple and mesquite both come out for me.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to that Colkagan's apple brandy as far as the nose goes, with the apple part of it. Good stuff. Mm-hmm. Hey, Mash and Jump just joined us. Hey, Jason, how's it going?
How's it going, Jason?
Thank you.
It doesn't destroy you with smoke, though.
Mm-mm.
Now, what's cool is that they actually smoke. Yeah, they smoke everything themselves in a little smokehouse out back. So they have their own. Again, they smoke a lot of their own grains, whether it's peat smoke or the mesquite here. It's kind of a cool. It's a really fun distillery to visit, just because not too many distilleries have their own like little smokehouse out back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd make it really interesting and unique, I feel like.
Do you know if they're doing their own malting as well?
I don't believe they're doing any of their own malting. Gretchen in the chat she'll have a better idea on that than I do. I don't believe they're doing any of their own maltings, but they do a lot of their own smoking. I think it's the only thing that they do.
I've seen that on video. That looks like a really fun distillery tour. I'm looking forward to getting down there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Gretchen says it's a nice tool shed.
Yeah, it's not huge, but it's definitely effective for what they're doing.
Hey, whatever works. Making great whiskey, that's what matters.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So what do you think of that one, Chris?
It's really good.
Especially after work. What do you want to start with?
Especially after work. My gosh. Mm-hmm. No, I think it's really well balanced for being in that much or that many smoked, I guess, barrels or whatnot. It's not overly smoked to me, so it's really well balanced.
No, I think that's something that's really, I guess, part of their like flavor profile. They never go like crazy over the top with anything that they smoke. Even like their peat smoke stuff tends to be a little bit lighter smoke, just because Ty, that's more of his style of way that he likes his malts.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think of the three in their core lineup, I think this is their best one personally. If you can only get one.
Yeah, I think, again, it's fun to see the mesquite smoked whiskeys from kind of the Southwest, like here, Colkegan, and trying to think of, Del Box. Yeah, well, the Del Box. Again, talked about them last time too. Again, it's a really cool regional style of whiskey, which is a lot of fun. And again, I know Crown attempted to do some mesquite smoke stuff, and it did not turn out the same.
It's horrible. Whoever thought of their marketing should be shot and killed.
That's a strong way to put it. I definitely prefer the smoked grain way to approach the mesquite smoke over like filtering it through like mesquite charcoal that the Crown decided to do. I think it's a little bit nuanced. You get a lot more of the sweetness of the smoke when actually you smoke the grains versus doing it through the briquettes.
Exactly. Yeah, it's that Crown one. It's just like drinking liquid smoke. It's just nasty.
Are
Terrible.
we back to that again?
Matt has feelings.
Strong feelings.
Don't make crappy whiskey. Especially when you put Texas on it. Really pisses me off.
Okay, no rants right now.
That's what everyone thinks.
I'm not talking about that.
I can't edit this down, Matt.
I understand that. So Donald Rance wants to know at Ironroot, something called Rossetto Rye. Do you guys do anything with that at all?
Yeah, actually, so we've distilled about 6 different species of rye now, and Rossetto is definitely one of them. It's I guess it's really unique. Versus with like Renza Bruzi or Elbon. It's again for us when we distilled it, I'd say it's almost fruitier than like the typical rye that you would think of, especially like the ones coming out of Canada. The group, at least the batch that we got out of Oklahoma, was really, really fruity rye, which to me, I really enjoyed it, and we'll actually be distilling some more of it too. It went through some kind of weird, funky stages for sure, but we ended up using the Rossetto rye in the batch 5 of Promethean, because we really love the character of that particular rye quite a bit.
Awesome.
Yeah, that and the Renza Bruzi rye, of all the species of rye we've distilled, have been our 2 favorites so far.
Excellent. I Whiskey She Wine just joined, so hey, Bobby and Sam.
Keep going.
So you only use that type of rye in Promethean, only not in Harbinger?
I did not, again, because when we distilled it, we made 4 barrels of it, and those 4 barrels had more of the profile that we look for Promethean.
Okay.
So it ended up getting used in that because of that.
So what's the big difference between Harbinger and Promethean anyway?
Harbinger's blended to be a lot fruitier, and a lot fruitier with fruity and baking spices, kind of the way that we approach that particular whiskey. It's really blended towards the 115 strength, so it's supposed to be kind of the sweetness level. It's supposed to try to balance out kind of the intensity, the heat from the higher alcohol. With Promethean, we try to go, my brother calls it the dark side of our flavor profile. So leather, tobacco, dark chocolate, cayenne pepper, those type of notes we always look for the different whiskeys. So depending on what it's hitting, that's really what we go into. So you balance that out with some darker fruit, at least for that particular expression.
I love GH Bacon. Who doesn't have a blue wrench tonight? Hey, we had some crazy mod crap happen, so I made sure there was enough mods to take care of problems. We had a very strange encounter with Hillary Clinton. We won't get into, but yeah.
Coming out of the woodworks.
And no mod to get them out.
Some crazy trolls. It's like, oh gosh, this is not good. So anyway, all right. So Chris, you want to move on to the next one?
I'm ready.
All
right. So next one I pulled out is Red River Texas whiskey, finished in cognac barrels.
All right. So that's what this one looks like. So this is kind of a cool one. That's up. I don't know if everybody knows this from. I don't know how close is this one to you guys up there up in Denison.
It's the closest to us. They're only about 25 miles away. Although they're no longer making Red River at Pilot Point. They sold that off. So
unfortunately, it's a nice whiskey though. Yeah, but like I said, they sold it all off. What was it, about a year ago or so now, something like that. Mm-hmm. So this was a Texas whiskey, but now, so where'd they? Any idea where they moved it to?
Some other people bought it and all the barrels. Matt, on the bottle, I'm trying to, because I think that's also a sourced whiskey, if my memory serves me correct.
It's crafted and bottled, so I'm guessing you're probably right. Yeah. Probably aged here, more than likely.
Yeah, if you distill it, you're definitely putting distilled on the bottle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm thinking they didn't make it. These guys make, well, okay. Their vodka is Western Sun's vodka, which actually is really good vodka. They have a lot of flavor vodkas. They're actually really nice. I really enjoy. I like their people up there a lot. Are pretty cool. Friends with some of their distillers, and it's pretty cool stuff. But I really enjoy Western Sun in general. But Red River is the other one. So yeah, like I said, this is a cognac barrel finish. They make also a Canadian one. They make a rye. They make a bourbon and cab finish, and they also make a blended vanilla one. So yeah, they make pretty good stuff. Also, they donate to the conservation fund every time for native Texas wildlife for every bottle they sell. So it's a cool little concept, and I particularly do like the whiskey. Even at 80, it's still a nice whiskey.
It'll be interesting to see what the new owners do with it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so Chris, what are you getting on?
Yeah, I think on the nose on this, like it honestly gives me a lot of alcohol sharpness.
Yeah.
And that's probably the cognac. That's probably the cognac, but like it's not as much rounded sweetness. It's more kind of like a rubbing alcohol nose to me.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be coming from the cognac barrel.
Levels of acetone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see a ton of acetone in cognac typically.
No, I'm thinking they just might have gone too far in the heads, or I don't know.
Yeah, column distillate from whoever they're getting it from. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't smell high proof though. It's just more like you said, the acetone note, I guess. That's what I'm picking up. But
yeah, a lot of time with the column stills, they're not going to do a whole lot with the cuts. They'll blow off a little bit and they'll let it. The way that they run, they're going to collect a lot more. So typically, you're going to need a lot more acetone, which is why you need to age it longer than 1 or 2 years, because it's still it's going to be really apparent at those younger ages.
Yeah, it definitely tastes much more than 80. It doesn't feel more than 80 as far as like on the palate and down the throat.
Thin.
It's very, very
Very
thin, but it has a pointed sharp in that acetone. I think you're absolutely correct.
It's interesting. Like when I first took a sip on the front of the palate, it tastes more like a Canadian whiskey to me.
Mm-hmm.
It does, and I don't get much. Of course, I'm not experienced with Texas whiskey in general, but I like that Texas profile that I'm picturing with Texas whiskey. I don't pick that up at all in
That
this.
you had the other night.
No, I don't get that either on any of this.
It depends on the night. Some nights will get what you guys are saying, and some nights I'll get it really. It gets really, really sweet and butterscotchy. It just depends on the night. As you know with all whiskeys, they're fickle, so you just never know what you're going to get.
It depends a lot on what you've had to eat and drink earlier in the day too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here eating bacon.
Tastes
so,
good with bacon.
I think after Striker, it kind of just put, like you said, brings a lot of the acetone notes out, unfortunately, rather than the butterscotchy notes.
It definitely does feel buttery on the palate, though. Kind of like a pot still butteriness, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like oily more than buttery.
Yeah.
Not that there's that much of a difference, but
You said oily?
yeah, oily more than buttery. Not that, I mean, again, there's not a big difference between the two, but.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's about that?
You're laughing at Eric?
Eric Wade. Jeez.
That's nice. Eric, that's lovely.
Fantastic.
I also like Captain's comment about Robert. That's also hilarious.
I did not see that one. Oh, jeez.
I think this.
So Jason wants to know if we think there's a certain finish on Texas whiskeys that works the best.
I have my opinions on that. Everyone's going to be a little bit different. But for me personally, again, from our small experimentations, I love Armagnac. But sometimes Armagnac can be a little too woody. So it all depends on really what you're going for. And also what the base whiskey is. For me, bourbons and Armagnacs tend to go really well together. If you got something that's got a little more wood to it, then I always like using a finishing cask that's either really exhausted or like a rum cask that's been used a bunch and doesn't have a whole lot of tannin to give. Just going to be more of just whatever that base spirit is.
So do you not think that there is an ideal barrel for just the heat in general?
For me, use casks. I think anything that's been more close to exhausted is going to be better off for longer term, especially for longer term finishing. You have to be really careful in Texas with like sherry and port casks, especially like younger sherry and port casks, because you can get a ton of tannin really quickly. And if you already have a well-matured whiskey that's already got a good amount of tannin, which a lot of Texas whiskeys do, you can really easily go over the edge and just end up with something that's super dry and that's not going to be as much fun to drink. So you got to be very on. If you're going to use sherry and port in Texas, you have to be very much on top of those barrels.
Well, and it's getting harder and harder to find second use and third use sherry barrels because they're just not making a lot of sherry anymore. So. Yeah,
getting them out of Scotland or getting whatever you're going to be doing. Again, there's a shortage of sherry and port casks as it is, so it's much tougher. So for me, that's why I tend to go towards like French spirits, just because the French distillers tend to really use those barrels until they don't have a whole lot left to give. So that's why personally I lean toward. Of course, I'm also biased. I really like French spirits, so. That's part of the reason why I go towards those. But for me, it's just you can be much easier on the you can go much longer term on the finishing rather than looking at it after 3 weeks. You can go 6 months to 9 months to a year in barrels that have a lot less tannin to give with Texas whiskeys.
Yeah, I think of Texas whiskeys that have done a really good job in finishing is obviously you guys, but Balcones also does, I think, a great job with their rum cask finishing, their port and their sherry. They've done a great job. Harbinger Marshall's done a really good job with their St. Arnold's has done fantastic. There's the big finishes. And even, I know it's not distilled here, but Oak and Eden's, their cab one is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
As far as the question about sauternes, our first sauterne finished stuff is going to be, those barrels should be in the next week or so. So I'll let you know about sauternes pretty soon. Also, Balcones, I know, has gotten some sauternes in, so they should see some fun single malt sauterne from Balcones as well.
That sounds exciting. I like that. Yeah, and I agree with Jason. The French oak from Balcones is fantastic. That's definitely one of the best whiskeys out there, for sure, hands down. I wish they'd make more. That's what I want. More Balcones French oak.
I wouldn't worry about that. I think they're definitely going to be. You're going to see a lot more of that coming down the pipe.
Thank God. Yeah, that's one of the few I actually don't have a bottle of. That was all gone. So I'm sad. Not that I don't have plenty of other Balcones, because I do, but it's one of the few I don't have. But yeah, that Hechaceros and Brujas was awesome. Those were just unbelievable that came out this past year. So, good beer. Let's go and finish those.
Yeah,
you have to be really careful too with another way you have to be careful with sherry and port casks is a lot of barrel, after they dump them, they'll put like sulfur candles in them to preserve them. And if you're not careful, then you end up with a whiskey that just is completely sulfured, and that's one thing that I don't know, just really aggravates my my palate and my nose is sulfur.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, that Rumble we tried the other night was really good too.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff for sure. Yeah, Eric Waite wants to know if you're going to use the Magic Mana corn on these Saturn's casks or not.
Maybe, Eric. Maybe. We shall see.
A good plan, or at least a good experiment at the minimum.
That may or may not be happening, and by may I mean May. So.
And by may not, I mean
May.
Yeah.
May.
What's up next, Chris?
Yeah.
I've got the Balcones Texas Pot Still Bourbon, the 46.
Yeah.
Or I've got the Balcones Texas Blue Corn Bourbon, which is 60.5%.
Well, you got to do the low proof first.
This one just came out. It's a $30 MSRP bottle here in Texas.
Yeah.
Such a great value.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was just about to say. This is probably one of the best values in Texas whiskey, I think, right now. I can't stop raving about it. My bottle's almost gone. I need to get another one soon. because it disappeared very, very quickly. And for the price, I don't care that it did.
Yeah, yours looks the same, exactly for $30. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't
You
really
can't go
care that it's
wrong.
almost gone. I'll go get another one and be just fine with spending another $30 on it.
especially as stuff generally does not disappear that
No.
fast here. This one does because it's just so good, especially for the price. I mean, you just can't go wrong with this whiskey. So let's do
Smells great on the nose already.
Yeah, and to me, you can really pick up
Oh,
the
yeah.
pot still on this bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Very fruity.
More on the palate than on the nose. I'm sorry, I should mention that.
It's berries.
Yeah, Captain says he's already on his second bottle, so good job, Captain.
Yeah, this is their only 4 grain whiskey. So they actually blend their blue corn bourbon with their wheated mash bill and with their rye mash bill.
I did not know that.
Interesting.
Thank you for that info.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Good
so it is a 4 grain bourbon, but it's not mashed and fermented distilled as 4 grain. It's like a blend of different casks.
Blended. Right.
Very cool.
Doug's asking about the new this year's special Garrison release. The now
Balmoral?
Yeah, which is really good.
And again, Balmoral continues to be my favorite release from Garrison every year.
By far my favorite from them.
Downstairs.
Yeah, the sweetness coming through on this is pretty amazing. I wasn't anticipating that kind of sweetness on this.
What's the? It's only 2 years old, right?
Yeah, I think it's only 2. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It goes up on the palate. That Texas heat.
Aged at least 24 months in oak.
Mm-hmm.
It is tasty though.
Robert, were you saying that these were all? You said that there were 4 different grains. Are they all pot still? Well, I mean,
Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, they only have pot still. Yeah, so it's all pot still. And again, it's really fun to get to to taste their different like cask strength versions. You blend those together, and you can kind of get a cool approximation of what a cask strength pot still would taste like.
Nice.
Which for me, that's what I was begging Jared for the other day. I was like, "Hey, you should release a cask strength version of this." So we'll see what they do.
Yeah.
I don't think Balcones veers away from cask.
Well,
Of all the Texas distillers, I think they're the least afraid of high proof. So
Yes, they
Yeah.
are.
One of the reasons I love them. All that high proof amazing.
Well, you too. Your distillery too, and we're really happy that you guys put out things that are as high proof as they are, because she loves high proof things.
Yeah.
So
Makes me happy.
if it's not over 110, she probably is going to be like, meh.
I mean, I'm not going to turn my nose up at his whiskey.
Because Robert, did you say you put out like 85% of your whiskeys at cask strength?
no, not at cask strength. 85% is going to be above 100 proof.
Above 100 proof. Okay.
Right now, I think this year will probably be about 40%, 45% will be above 115 proof or 115.
That's awesome.
We really like the high proof. So
good. We do too.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing. In the Whiskey 2 community, we become proof whores. What can I say? It's just
Yeah.
Admittedly.
The more of the stuff you drink, the more you crave it. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
intensity.
this is
it's all about the intensity.
yeah, Donald's asking a really interesting question about will Ironroot be doing a Canadian style where all the grains are distilled separately and aged separately and blended at the end? That is an excellent question. Are you guys doing like that?
So what we do with all of we have different mash bills. We have 4 core mash bills. And I guess we will have 5 now because Eric Waite talked us into doing Magic Mana as a full-time grain now as well.
Yes. So good.
So we have, so I guess 4 of the 5 right now are of the core mash bills are 100% corn, and then we have 1 that has rye in it. So those are all distilled separately, and then they get blended in different proportions to create the different kind of to create the Harbinger line, to create Promethean line. They're blended differently, but we have the core mash bills to do that. We have distilled again the rye whiskey. The rye whiskey that we have distilled is not 100% rye, so we did have some corn and barley in that. But typically, when we do, we like giving ourselves as much options on the blending table as possible. So we do try to keep things separate and then blend them into the profile of the whiskey that we're looking for. So really, the only way, except for hubris, to get any of our individual mash bills is it with single barrels. So, I think Josh got some Bloody Butcher corn. We've had a couple Magic Mana go out now. Their next single barrel that's coming out is going to be actually a green Oaxacan corn, which is really exciting.
Oh, hell yes.
But yeah, we're kind of a hybrid between Canadian style with the way that they keep everything separate and like Four Roses that has the 10 different mash bills. So I like having a lot of the art done at the blending table. I think that's a lot of fun for us as blenders, and it really gives us a lot of flexibility to make things better every time we put them out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm excited to make a green Oaxacan corn single barrel. That sounds amazing. I love that barrel there. That's good stuff.
Captain, I can get behind some Pop-Tart crust on this Balcones.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
too.
Those cinnamon
Just the
Pop-Tarts?
crusty parts? No filling, he said.
No? Okay.
Can you get that
I can get behind...
flavor still though? Like can you recognize that as a Balcone now that you've had enough Balcones? Can you get that kind of flavor house style?
I don't know. I don't know if I've had enough Balcones myself yet.
Man needs more Balcones.
I got more in the box.
Matt, I need more Balcones.
He's about to pour himself the cast strength, blue corn bourbon. Plus, he's got a true blue cast strength, a Mirador in there as well.
A Mirador, yeah.
I think he's got a single malt too. He should be good.
Andy was asking, do Texas distilleries go through down seasons for repairs and whatnot like Scotland distilleries do? Yes. Different distilleries that will have different lengths. Like for us, we will shut down for about 6 weeks, which is almost time for that right now. So we'll actually be probably next week is when we'll start that. I know Garrison takes at least a month off during the summer. Really, it gets really hot down here in August, and not a lot of people like distilling during August because of that. It messes with fermentations and everything else. So a lot of distilleries will take the month of August off. Now, everybody's different what they prefer to do, but most distilleries that I know in Texas do take at least 2 to 4 weeks off during the course of the year. You have to go through repair gaskets and again, just make sure everything's going. You don't have any leaks in the system or anything like that. So I think if some distilleries don't take the time off, I highly suggest that they do.
I know Kentucky does that. A lot of their distilleries do the same thing. They shut off for the summer. And some have moved their stuff even further south or further north, depending on where they're located, for different climates to keep going, which I think is insane, but whatever works for you.
Yeah. So I was just looking at 2 of these samples you sent me, Matt. Balcones, Texas, Blue Corn Bourbon Pot Still, 60.5%.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Balcones True Blue Cast Strength. So you're telling me the cast strength wasn't the 61% to begin with?
One's corn whiskey, one's bourbon.
3.
No, one's corn whiskey and the other one's bourbon.
Yes, do the bourbon
okay, gotcha.
60.5, and then do your corn whiskey at 68.3 after it.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a 10th anniversary edition of the Blue Corn Bourbon. So unfortunately it's a limited release, but they do release it every year. And if you do find a bottle, totally worth it's like $80, completely worth it though. This is a fantastic bourbon. You cannot go wrong with this one at all.
I'm gonna try the lower proof first. The Blue Corn Bourbon Pot Still.
Good choice. I love the way this smells. It's so rich. The viscosity on this thing is amazing. It's
Are you drinking the same thing?
chocolatey and so good.
Are we drinking the same thing?
It's an orgasmic whiskey. What can I say? It's just that good.
I was on my way to work today. I was watching your guys' review you just put out today of the Compass box. And literally, the second half of the video, every single time Matt took a sip, he's like, "That is so damn good. That is just so good." He was just quivering.
You should hear all the stuff we edit out.
Yeah, right. That was great.
A couple questions. Andy was asking whether we sent new make to different climates. We haven't done that, but Balcones actually has done that. I think last year they sent out some to different corners of the U.S. to age some of their whiskeys in, which I'm really excited to see how that goes. And again, it's one of the reasons why I love those guys. That they're still on the edge of exploring everything to do with how whiskeys age and change, and kind of really explore their distillate. For us, hopefully we'll be able to do some stuff like that. We've got some connections with a few different distilleries, so we're hoping to make some exchanges with some people and just kind of test out some stuff like that here in the future. The oldest, and another question from Donald Rance, as far as the oldest aged Texas whiskey. The oldest Texas whiskeys that I know of are both Garrison. He's anywhere between 4 to 6 years old that I've seen come out from him. And then also TX Bourbon is definitely has some 4 to 6 year olds in there. For us, 5 years old, we're releasing this year. For us, again, we're always trying to explore how do you get up to that 8 to 10 year old range. And that's why we've moved up. And I know Balcones has also moved up from the standard 53 gallon barrels to 60 and 63 gallon barrels to help try to slow the extraction down, slow the angel share, allow us to get to much older age statements with those.
And you were saying earlier, just used barrels again, not having to have all that wood tannin. Right
100%.
there.
And again, you just look at what Balcones did with Mirador last year, and the one that's going to be coming out here pretty soon. That's like 3-year-old used cask in Texas, and it's glorious. And it shows that not only can you make great whiskey in a short amount of time, but I think that there's so much more potential for what that whiskey can even be, which is hard to imagine it getting a lot better than what it is, which is what's so exciting for me and I think for everybody else. Really, what can we do?
Yeah, that Hungarian oak made a huge difference on that mirror. Such a difference in color, too, from the usual black whiskey they make at Balcones to like an actual Scotch-colored whiskey. It's pretty interesting what Mirror did. And Richie Z wanted to know, do you know, Robert, if anybody's using any of your Texas barrels at all over in Scotland to make Scotch at all yet? Any word on that?
We haven't sent any to anybody yet, and I don't know if Balcones has. I haven't talked to them about that. It wouldn't surprise me if you don't see that in the not too distant future, especially with the rise of the smaller independent Scotch distilleries. I think they're going to be way more open to doing that, whereas where a lot of the big guys are already tied into their bourbon distillers over here that are with the same company. But I know, again, we're started to develop some relationships. So I think stuff like that's going to be happening. I know for us, we're going to be sending some of our French oak casks over to Armagnac for some Armagnacs to be aged in. Just because in order for it to be called Armagnac, it has to be aged in French oak. And Long Cantata, one of the kind of more well-known, I guess, among the bourbon enthusiast groups for Armagnac, he's been aging some stuff in bourbon barrels, but he can't call it Armagnac now. And so the moment that we started talking to him that we have bourbon in French oak, got super excited. And so I know we're going to be starting to do some of the stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's not too far down the line.
That sounds exciting. I'm excited to see what turns out of that, to see a Texas barrel-aged Scotch. That will be very interesting to try, for sure.
It'll be unique, I think.
Yeah, I think whoever gets to that table is going to sell some serious whiskey, for sure.
Yeah. I got a question for you, Robert. So Kentucky whiskey or with Kentucky bourbon, they say 8 to 12 years seems to be the sweet spot for age. Like, what are your thoughts on Texas whiskey? Like, what do you think is going to be that sweet spot for the very best whiskey you can get out of that barrel?
My personal guess right now is going to be 6 to 8. But again, it's one of those things that it's still a little too early, I think, in the Texas whiskey growth to really know that answer quite yet. I think as we start experimenting with larger casks, I think the used cask is going to be another huge potential. That's going to impact that. And then there's a few of us that are also going to start using fooders and stuff like that with the whiskey. And so really seeing what the long-term potential is going to be, I think we're still another decade from really knowing the actual answer to that. But my gut tells me 6 to 8 is probably going to be the actual sweet spot once we kind of figure out everything. And probably different regions of Texas will be a little bit different.
Right.
Farther south will probably be a little bit younger, especially for new casks. For us, like guys like us that are a little bit farther north, probably be a little bit longer. It's one of those things that I think there's too much to experiment with to really know yet. And anyone that tells you they know is fooling themselves. I'm sorry, Eric. My French pronunciation is terrible. I apologize.
Eric's always the one to call you out if you ever say anything or do anything wrong. So,
this is something we probably haven't talked about prior. Is Texas has multiple distilling regions because Texas is so freaking big and the climates are so different. Of course, growing up here, you always learn in school all the different parts of Texas, so you get totally different flavor profiles from each distinct region in Texas, I believe. And you find it to be the same case as well, Robert?
Yeah, and I think that's going to be 100% true. It's one of the most interesting examples of that for me is actually Whitmire's down in Houston, where they actually see proof go down in cask, and they still see the larger Angel share, but their proof will fall in cask versus Balcones, Garrison, and us all see our proofs go up in cask, typically. Now, again, obviously we handle that a little bit differently where we add water in cask to help reduce that over time. But in Houston, again, and it's funny because Yellow Rose, that's not too far from Whitmire's, their proof goes up in cask as well. So, again, I think you're going to see even maybe some microclimate areas that are going to be very different from each other, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I kind of see it like, you guys are kind of like your own little region up there in the very far north part of Texas. And then you got DFW has its own little climate. And then Waco has their own. Then you go down to Austin area has their own, like the Gulf Coast does. And a little bit further west of Austin, you even have a little bit of their own difference. It's very unique how the different regions of Texas affect the whiskeys, with Texas being so big. It's kind of like the Scotland of America, basically, as far as different whiskey regions go for Texas and different flavor profiles you get at each region.
Yeah, Richie Z was asking what's the highest elevation Texas distillery. There's a rum distillery in Lubbock that I think is the highest elevation. And then we may very well be the second highest elevation, but they're slightly higher than us up on the Llano Estacado over there.
Texas makes some great rum. That's for sure, too. Balcones being one of them.
Balcones rum is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, that's the whiskey drinker's rum, no doubt. Love that stuff. Okay. Well, that's nice, Eric. Thanks for the information.
We learn something new from Eric every time.
I always dress up like carrots, Eric, so that's just me.
It's the ginger in you. You just can't stop it. All right, so Chris, if you moved on now to so what do you think of this cask strength Texas Blue Corn Bourbon?
That was really good. I moved on now
To the True Blue cask strength corn whiskey?
Yes.
Ooh, I'd like to get your opinion of the comparison between the corn whiskey and the bourbon.
I mean, I don't know if it's the proof difference, but like the mouth coating and just the sweetness was just so much more elevated in the corn. The corn whiskey cask.
Yeah, and this thing is 68.3. I mean, this is damn good whiskey. You're right. It's definitely mouth coating. It is sweeter, but it's also a limited edition special. Usually it comes out once a year, but it's really good stuff if you can get a hold of this stuff. It's really good.
But it still doesn't drink 68%.
No.
It's nowhere near that.
So Ben wants to know if the Texas Whiskey Trail helps, like Ironroot and the other members of it get out of just the us whiskey geeks loving all their whiskey to the mainstream public. Has that helped a lot? Have you seen it all, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have had a bunch of new interest in Texas whiskey and all the different distilleries on the trail because of the existence of the trail. I mean, anytime you have anything extra that's pointing to arrows at you, it always helps you out a little bit. So we definitely have had quite a few people visit because of the trail. Awesome. As far as the extra benefits at Ironroot right now, obviously you get free tours, discount on merchandise, and then we'll be having a single barrel that'll be coming out this fall. It's going to be for trail members. And then I think we are also, I believe, I have to double check, but I believe we are actually going to be giving early access to the 5th anniversary bottling as far as being able to reserve it if you are a trail member, to make sure that you do get that bottling. You will be able to reserve that. So it'll be stuff like that, access to some special single barrels that are just at the distillery, and then early access to some of our other special releases, which are being able to reserve special releases. So those, for us, that's the main stuff right now. And there will be definitely some other stuff that we'll be doing. As I think we're going to be working on like a whiskey club for the distillery that you'll get discounts in and stuff like that. You'll be able to be part of. But we're always adding new benefits for trail members or for Trailblazer members. And so again, you saw that Garrison, you were able to go and pick the barrel that went to Garrison, stuff like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff that's going on. I think someone else also asked there's any Scottish distilleries sending whiskey over to these states to get aged over here. There's not any that are doing it for, obviously, to release as their own product, but there are definitely distilleries like Virginia Distilling that do source Scottish whiskey to either blend with their own, in the case of Virginia, or to just age here in the U.S. and then sell it under their own label. So there's definitely some scotches that are coming over here, being aged here and then being sold. Obviously, if you don't bottle it over in Scotland, you can't call it Scotch, but it is Scottish distillate that's being brought over here.
Mm. So, Chris, what's your favorite of those two? Or you just love them both and it just doesn't matter?
They're both incredible, but I think I like the True Blue cask strength more.
Okay.
The more I drink it, it's like vanilla ice cream.
It is very sweet. And like I said, you don't realize how high that proof is and how dangerous that whiskey is.
I know. You can have like 1 gram of this.
Oh,
so good. That's so good, though. So good.
Yeah, I hide that one for myself because I'll drink the crap out of it otherwise. So I stick it in the other room. And I'm too lazy to go get it, so I just leave it in the other room. It's safer that way.
You can leave it over here. We'll protect it for you.
Yeah, I'll get right on that.
Bad idea.
Andy asked my thoughts on big distillery, big groups like Picard, Picard and Diageo buying into American distilleries. It's one of those things that I think that larger companies like that they can definitely provide smaller distilleries a lot of capital, which is the biggest issue with small distilleries, is having the capital to allow whiskeys to age longer and do stuff like that. So I definitely think
putting it down.
There can be, then put more whiskey down, allow it to age longer. I think there definitely can be benefits. It all depends on how they handle the distillery and like what the guys have done with Westland. I think it's been great, and talking to Matt over there has nothing but great things to say with what they've done. You look at, there's a couple other series. I think Constellation's bought into a few, like High West, and they've had nothing but great things to say. But obviously, there's horror stories, like coming in and wiping out the founders of the distillery, and the distillate can change and stuff like that. But I think that it can be a good and bad thing for a distillery. I will say, no matter what, when companies come in like that, things do change. Sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse, just like with anything. And it's all in how if they're able to keep the team there to continue doing the same creative stuff, generally can give them a lot more tools to do what they want to do. But that doesn't always happen. So I guess it's a toss up on whether it's good or bad, in my opinion. You just have to wait and see.
True. Yeah. So speaking of Westland, so Matt from Westland is actually going to be here. We'll be having a private event with him on August 1st.
Oh, fantastic! I love Matt. He's another whiskey ginger.
You'll be getting an invite for that for sure.
All right.
Whiskey gingers unite.
Yeah. I think that all in whiskey, all these whiskey gingers, it's just one of those things.
What'd you pull next, Chris?
So you guys were just talking about the Mirador, so I'm thinking about doing that.
All right, let's do that.
Definitely. Thank you, Eric. You did a small correction on it can be bottled in the U.S. and still be called Scotch. It just can't do any more maturation in a foreign country. We could still call it Scotch whiskey.
So
thank you, Eric.
It comes over in a tote and then you bottle it, basically.
Yes, I think that's again, if I'm reading Eric's thing correctly on that. And I'm not 100% on the rules of Scotch.
I thought it had to be bottled over. I thought they changed the law in like 12 that they had to be bottled there. Or maybe they didn't. I don't know.
Hey, again, if you're interested in the rules of Scotch, make sure you're watching Eric Waite's History of Scotch that he's putting out right now.
Awesome.
I have been enjoying those, but I am a little bit behind on that. So
yeah,
you're doing good work over there.
First 9 or 10 so far. I went on vacation, delayed me some. But yeah, if anybody wants to know about Scotch, Eric's definitely his last month of Scotch whiskey history has been amazing. So definitely check that out if you want to into that kind of thing.
So I'm really glad that you're tasting Mirador right now. It's absolutely one of my favorite Balcones releases.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was brainchild of Zach, who passed away, I guess, just not too long ago, and Jared. But it's kind of their homage a little bit more to traditional malt whiskey. Mm-hmm. And it's so unique within their range, but it's despite its uniqueness, it's still very much Balcones. How the intensity of that spirit is still Balcones.
So I think the way you describe like a house brand, like I think I get it more now. Mm-hmm. Like when I put the nose, I was like, okay, that's what Balcones smells like. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it doesn't matter which Balcones it is. There's still that lingering Balcones behind it.
Yeah, it sticks out.
Even though this is like a single malt compared to all the bourbons and corn whiskeys we were just drinking before it still has that same note, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Fruity.
That Balcones note.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, no matter what with Balcones, whether it's even their rye, the rumble, the rum, all has that similar house style. You know it's Balcones. There's no doubt what it is.
That's really good. Wow.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it?
It's so much hotter on the palate than it feels like it's going to be on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Donald Rance asks, is there any particular grain that's harder to work with than others? And is there a grain that I don't like to work with? Rye is by far the most difficult to work with. When you mash it, it likes to form what they call rye balls, where it doughs up and the center maintains the water doesn't get to it. So if you don't break up those rye balls, then the outside of it gets cooked, but the inside doesn't. So so when you put it into a fermenter, it can break apart during fermentation, basically release bacteria and infect your entire mash. So it is a pain to work with. I would say it is my least favorite grain to work with just because of that. And it takes a lot longer to process and deal with. But again, it's one that we also again, as far as making actual rye whiskey, this was our first year to do like a full-on big batch of rye whiskey. So hopefully, as we do it more, we will actually it'll get easier to deal with because we'll be able to anticipate when we're going to have some issues. But I'd say that's probably my least favorite to deal with.
Just to let everybody know, Bill's in a hot tub drinking, so it's just good message for all of us.
I didn't need that mental image.
You didn't, but he shared it, so I had
I got it.
But there it
Thanks,
is
Bill.
anyway.
You're welcome. And Eric talks about rye balls, so you can make up your own jokes. So this is just getting great.
I'd be really interested in trying a cast strength rye Ironroot expression.
It's coming. It's coming. It's going to be a few years yet. I would say probably 3 or 4 years away, just because it just went into barrel.
Mhm.
But I'm excited to see how it turns out. It's a little bit lower rye percentage. It's just about, I think it's 67% rye.
That's pretty cool.
And then slightly more corn than barley. So for the rest of it, but again, I'm not as big of a fan of the really big heavy dill ryes, and so we wanted to back off a little bit on that. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like to compare your when it comes out obviously to the Balcones cast strength rye, which is one of the best ryes as far as I've ever made.
Well, I'll say it won't taste anything like it just because we don't use any chocolate malt rye or even any crystal malt ryes.
Okay.
So it's so yeah, you're not going to get any of those flavors in the rye that we do.
So what type of rye are you guys using in it?
We actually use Renzabruzzi and Bracetto, the two different ryes that we use in it.
So it'd be totally different type of that'd be completely different then.
So what different rye flavors would you get from that versus like the other types of rye?
So as I said earlier, Bracetto tends to be a little bit fruitier. It's like a fruity herbal. And then Renzabruzzi tends to be a little bit more floral in character. It's like floral and herbal kind of characteristics with it. So it's
Interesting.
so the two ryes we're using don't have a ton of there's not a ton of licorice in it, ironically, or the kind of the dill style rye.
Yay.
So those are the two notes that we kind of edged away from a little bit.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric says he might have to leave California and come to Texas. I'm all for that, Eric. That sounds like a good plan.
So Andy was asking whether we've considered a yearly distillery release in the line of Snowflake, like over at Stranahan's. Distillery only unique type. So yes, initially that was Hubris that we were releasing as a distillery only. It has since kind of grown outside the distillery slowly. We're slowly getting that guy out there a little bit more. So that it's now going to get shifted to the distillery only release is going to be like our anniversary release that we do every year. So like our 5th anniversary release that's coming this year will be a distillery only release. And so we'll start doing that in November every year. Just so if you decide to come hang out at the distillery and try to wait outside, it will not be super hot and you will not sweat to death.
We can go.
Hey, you want to know? We'll be there.
So what do you think of this one, Chris?
That's really good. That Crusaders ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know. It doesn't taste like a normal like Scotch at all either. It's got that different fruity sweetness to it, I guess, than what I'm used to with a standard single malt. You know,
It's really fruity. Lots of berries.
Oh yeah.
It's
that's
like
good though, and it's still got a little bit of smoke to it too, like Texas smoke in there. You know.
Hey Matt, what's the age statement on that too? It's only just over
23 months.
Oh, it's just under 2.
23 months. It is 54.8. This is a 10th anniversary edition as well that just came out this past year. Gretchen said they're coming out with another one this year, so thank God for that. Because Mirador is one of the best whiskeys they've ever put out. It's like a fruity Dr. Pepper. It's a really unique taste. I don't know if you ever had it or not, Chris, but if you get that up there, that's good stuff too. But yeah, that's what we kind of think of it.
Pretty sure Dr. Pepper is a global brand at this point, Matt.
I don't know. Dr. Pepper's
Luckily,
it's damn good.
our Dr. Pepper distribution's pretty good in Michigan.
Ah,
so.
good. 'Cause I love Dr. Pepper.
Didn't you like get some Dr. Pepper or something?
Although I will say, when we were up in Michigan last week, we did try some excellent Michigan sodas while we were up there, along with the whiskey.
Yeah.
Just like your, what's it? Start with an F, like Fendelico or something like that.
Fago.
Yeah, that one. That was really good. And then the North, was it Northwoods? North something?
I don't
I don't know. We tried a couple brands. They were soda. They were really good, though.
You said Fago.
What?
Bill's asking me where the names for the whiskey come from. So they're the brainchild of my brother, who absolutely loves Greek mythology. Also, he's got super dark sense of humor for anybody that's spent any length of time with him. So we tend to try to be a little bit dark or almost slightly double meaning for some of the names. So one, we feel they're cool and fun names, especially if he tells me the name and I have to go look it up because I don't know what the heck it means. So yeah, we've got the 5th year anniversary release has I don't know, the code name for it right now is really interesting. So if we stick with it, we shall see. But it's also a very dark name, so we'll see on that one. But like Harbinger, obviously, it usually is a harbinger of doom, which I guess is not such a great thing when you're starting a business to name something that's foreboding death and destruction. But it does mean foreshadowing of things to come, which is Harbinger was the very first release we ever did. And we thought that was really fitting, especially since the very first release we did was kind of a pre-release. It was a really small blend just because we wanted, a year and a half, 2 years in, we wanted to show people kind of what we were working on and kind of understand what we were talking about with these heirloom grains and stuff like that. So, so that's kind of where that one came from. Yeah. And then Icarus, obviously, that's kind of a take on. So it started out as Hubris, which again, for the story behind Hubris was that it was a barrel in the warehouse that I fell in love with very early on. It was like 14 months old. I tried to convince my brother that we needed to enter into competition, and he refused. And he said, "No, it's a 14-month-old whiskey. That's Hubris. To enter that into a competition." So I went behind his back and entered it anyway, and named it Hubris. I printed out a label off my computer, so I didn't even have an official label. Sent it into competition at San Francisco. It ended up getting double gold and winning best corn whiskey in the world from them, and then went on also to win from Whiskey Magazine that year. So we decided that I guess that had to be a formal release from now on. So it is our purple corn mash bill. It's now quite a bit older than 14 months old because it gets better as it gets older. Surprise on that. And so Icarus is the extension off of that because it's Hubris then finished in the port and the peat casks. And I thought it was funny that Icarus obviously got too close to the sun, his wings melted, so we joked that he also got burned a little bit, which is why Icarus is a little bit smoky compared to Hubris.
Nice.
Which is an incredible whiskey, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes.
So that's the long story of where most of those names come from.
What you picking now, Chris?
I'm going to move on. So I think I went through all the Balcones expressions.
Yeah, which one was your favorite out of those 4 that you tasted tonight?
I'm honestly probably either the Mirador or the cast strength blue corn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah,
Mirador.
but the Mirador was, I really, really liked that too.
Me too.
Even me not being as much of a single malt guy as a bourbon guy, more of a bourbon guy, it's like, it was just so good. so good.
Flavorful. It's just so flavorful.
It is. Yeah, I'm going to move on to Yellow Rose, Outlaw Bourbon.
Yeah, so this is 92. So this was Yellow Rose. Is one of their first whiskeys actually made in Texas. Most of the stuff they started with originally was sourced, but this is actually distilled, made in Texas, 100% corn bourbon.
Okay.
So yeah, this is a very different bourbon because this is near Houston, so you'll get a different flavor profile, but you can definitely tell it's Texas at least 1 year. So it's a young whiskey, but it's distinctly a Texas bourbon for sure. So I'm going to just see if you'll pick up the Texas signature on this.
Yep.
Yeah, the Texas is there for sure.
Get it on the nose.
Yep, for sure. It does smell younger than like pretty much any of that Balcones line I just tried.
For sure.
A little bit more bright and shiny, a little bit more brittle.
Yeah.
It's got that little smoky nose to it.
Almost mesquite, almost hickory.
Mm-hmm.
Hickory. That's what I want to go with on this one.
Dusty corn note right on the front.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it smells like a mash. It smells like the corn mash still.
I see that on it.
Yeah, had it right at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's my own damn fault for just drinking something that's 69% alcohol, but it just tastes super, super thin, of course. But it's pretty decent flavor on the palate. I don't mind that.
Yeah, it's a nice sweet whiskey. I would say it is a bourbon, but it's also 100% corn. I think that makes it early sweet.
It's got a sweet on the forward, but it's a little smoky on the finish.
I just got a new funk.
New young funk.
Yeah, new young funk. I wasn't a big fan.
It's buttery. It's young. But I think it's a nice whiskey though. I enjoy it. This is one of the whiskeys from Yellow Rose that turned me on to drinking Yellow Rose was this one in particular.
I didn't get the funk the first taste that I had of it, and then he put the thought in my head, and now I get the funk.
Agreed. The second sip, I got more of that.
Thanks, William.
Thanks, William.
All right,
Yeah.
call it like I see it.
Yellow corn by itself can be kind of funky, even when it's older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Good to know.
Yeah.
But it's a nice whiskey. I mean, it's not a bad whiskey by any means. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But compared to what you just had, is it going to be as good? No.
Yeah, that's the problem. But yeah, it's still very drinkable, very
Yeah, you
approachable.
should finish with the Balcones.
Yeah, right.
You got enough to go back to?
Well, at least he'll remember it this way. You know, it's all good.
Yeah.
The really good ones.
Now you did send me a couple different Ben Milans.
I did, correct.
The the bourbon and the rye.
I think
Which
we did
one of those
I
you
think we did the rye on your show on Friday.
Did I? Oh, you're right. There's a little bit gone of that.
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't remember. Pretty sure the last 40 minutes or so are probably blur for you.
You're absolutely right.
Is
I
that
would not
hour
remember.
3?
So
Yeah.
we don't have to drink rye tonight?
Yay!
I was gonna say I don't remember. I do not remember drinking this. So if I drank it now, it'd be completely blind to me. So
We can
Well,
just
just try like a tidbit of it so see what you think of it. So you can remember it.
I want a fresh glass for that. I want to pickle up my other glass.
Yeah, 'cause the other one, yeah. So do the I don't know. I don't know if you want to do the bourbon or the rye first from Ben Lylem or not, but the rye is only 80, but the bourbon is 86. I have another rye as well from that's a single barrel. That's a little bit. I think it was like 92, something like that. But yeah, I think now these I believe are sourced. These particular, yeah, this one says distilled in Tennessee. So these ones are sourced for the new stuff. They're laying down actual Texas whiskey though. But Heather Green is the new CEO for them, and so they're doing some really cool stuff. It's won a bunch of awards though, so it's good. This has got double gold at San Francisco, so it's a good whiskey. But this particular ones are not yet distilled here, but they're definitely laying down a ton of barrels that are distilled here.
And Matt, what's the ABV on that one?
On the bourbon, it's 80. It is 43%.
Chris, are you
I
drinking the
remember-
Bourbon or rye?
I remember the rye now because I remember talking on the stream about saying this just smells like licorice.
Yes, exactly.
Just pickles for days.
Yeah, it's black licorice.
And pickle.
Pickle.
I remember it. I did drink it.
Just needed a quick sniff to jog your memory.
That's right. That sensory. It's always there.
To me, it's just pickle juice.
But you hate rye.
I don't
Don't
hate all
hate
rye.
rye.
I
You do.
don't like young rye because it
Pickle.
tastes like pickle and
Pickle,
it smells
pickle,
like pickle.
And pickles should be in a jar in the fridge.
Not in my
My
glass, in my cabinet.
My alcohol. I like pickles individually.
Taste is better than the smell.
Yeah, I tried the bourbon first because I figured that rye would destroy my palate. And I'm not getting as much of the Texas note from this.
And I think that's because it was just.
Oh, it's sourced. That's
it wasn't
right, it's sourced.
distilled here. It was sourced and aged here, but not distilled here. So I think that's why you don't get that Texas funk on it.
Yeah.
Or the Texas oak tanniny you get on most Texas stuff.
Yeah.
Good call.
And sometimes, and I don't know, for sure. And sometimes you'll get the Texas stuff. I also wonder if the water in Texas makes any difference as far as getting that Texas note on it or not.
No.
No, it makes no difference. You don't think it's just the oak?
No, it's the finishing water rarely has anything to do with the spirit. Vast majority of distilleries, even Kentucky, are all using RO water or heavily filtered water.
Okay.
So the limestone water, when they're talking about that, it doesn't have anything to do with the finishing, and it has to do more with fermentation. That you want to have the right minerals for yeast. And so that's more of where that's important. Again, you talk to the guys from Elijah Craig too, and they'll even tell you that a lot of the Kentucky aquifers are polluted, and so they have to heavily treat their water, even though that's where they pull from. And so, again, at the end, when you're using RO water, it's really not going to impact the flavor a whole lot. So yeah, there's a lot of things that can impact the flavor, but that's not really one that's going to, I would say, gives Texas whiskey its distinctive characteristics.
Okay. Good to know for future reference. Okay.
Okay.
Not that all water tastes the same, but it's going to be very minute compared to other things.
Okay. So it's really just the heat and the oak itself.
That's going to be the majority of what you're dealing with. Also, yeast choice is going to be big, especially for younger whiskeys. Yeast choice is going to be really important. Then obviously grain choice is also going to be impacting what you're doing.
Do most Texas distilleries use a similar yeast, or is it all pretty widely varying? It's
pretty widely varying. Again, you've got where you can get your yeast from, how you're dealing with your yeast. Everybody's a little bit different with how they do that, and that has a lot to do, especially with younger whiskeys.
Okay.
Because that really impacts your ester formation during fermentation. Again, which esters are apparent, and from where you're going to get them out of the still. How deep are you cutting your whiskey? If you're using a pot still, that's going to be highly dependent. It's going to be really determinative on how the types of esters that you're getting into your whiskey at the end of the day. Especially a lot of craft distillers tend to cut pretty tight, which you're not going to get quite the amount of esters you'll get if you cut a little bit deeper. So it just depends on distilling philosophy, how long you're intending to age it, and how you run your still, of how much of impact you're going to get from that yeast.
Do you guys use the same yeast in all your products, or use different yeast for different products?
We have 3 different yeasts that we use. 2 different ones that we will use for whiskey, and we'll use them either sometimes together, sometimes we'll use one, and sometimes we'll use the other. Sometimes we'll mix up the proportions a little bit. And a lot of that's to create a little bit more diversity even within the same mash bills. Again, for us, it's all about creating as many different flavors as we can. That way we can when we get to the blending table, we have as much complexity we can build from as possible.
Okay. Yeah, there's no like Banner uses red wine yeast, which I think is real interesting to use just a different yeast on their whiskey.
Bill is asking, have I ever played with chill filtration just for the heck of it? Yeah, we have. Not a huge fan of it. Again, it's one of those things that there's some studies that have come out that were saying that chill filtration, people can't tell the difference between the two. I'd have to look at the studies a lot more closely on how they're chill filtering. What was the micron pads they're using for the chill filtration? Are they using carbon in the chill filtration? There's a lot of different things that can impact whether chill filtration has a flavor impact, mouthfeel impact. From my experience, from our just experimentation that we've done, I think it makes a huge difference, especially on mouthfeel, first and foremost. Also, for us, I think it diminishes the nose a little bit. Yep. But again, that's also for me personally, from what I've seen. But yeah, we have played around with a little bit. Again, with different levels of chill filtration.
Yeah, I think even just putting aside the science of it all, just the nose and taste tests, from us people who drink whiskey all the time. I mean, most of the time I'll always go towards a non-chill, higher proof product if I can, so.
Yep. I mean, that's generally where I go towards as well.
Yep.
We have, what's the point of chill filtration? It's really, it's more important for lower proof stuff, I would say. As you get to closer to 94 proof, you hit the point of what you can create saponification in a whiskey, or once you get below that 94 proof, you can really, a lot of the fats will congeal and you'll get little floaties in the whiskey. If you don't do slow dilution, if you're using pot stills, if you're using column stills, it's not as necessary in my opinion, but you can get chill haze just because of the amount of protein still in the whiskey. So the whiskey gets cold or changes temperature, it can haze slightly. And if people on a shelf are looking at a bottle and it's a little bit hazy, it looks a little bit milky, they're more than likely not going to pick that bottle up just because it looks weird. And so that's why most companies do it, is just for look, to prevent chill haze, to prevent saponification, which saponification, if you add water too quickly around that 94 proof point from pot still, you can get it will actually form almost like soapy notes. So if you've ever had scotches that have almost like a soapy character to them, it's probably because they've diluted it too quickly. Or with like craft whiskeys, if there's something coming across that's very soapy, typically that's where it's coming from. It's because of how they watered it down before, and they didn't do chill filtration before they watered it down.
Interesting.
So the haziness can actually happen in the glass too. If you add your whiskey to ice, your whiskey can become cloudy right there in your glass. And again, a lot of whiskey companies just don't want their whiskey to become cloudy. If you leave it at high proof, doesn't do that. But
correct. Oh, he was asking soapy notes like on taste. Yeah, on taste and notes, you can actually get soapy notes. But also definitely look from the milkiness.
Cloudy look.
Yeah.
Right.
Should we taste both the Ben Miloms now?
Yep.
So which one do you prefer, the rye or the bourbon?
Bourbon.
I prefer the bourbon because I don't like. I'm not a big fan of that black licorice note myself, generally in rye.
Yeah,
so.
I think their newer, higher proof rye I have is a little bit better than that one, but that's the standard rye I sent you.
Okay.
Why would you do that?
All because that's what I grabbed. All right, so what do you want to move on to now? What's the next one you got?
I cannot read your handwriting on this
one. Chicken scratch.
Something 4-grain bourbon batch 1.
That's Tall Caro from Grapevine, Texas.
That was
the closest distillery to where we are currently located.
That can't
They're good friends of ours down there, and they make an awesome whiskey. Now, this is 96 proof. They make a cask strength that you only try at the distillery. That it's not bottled yet. We've tried several different barrels of it. It is awesome. But I think this is really nice. It's a 4-grain, so which makes it nice that it's corn, wheat, rye, and malted barley with 4 grains in it. So yeah, this is really nice stuff. This is only 14 months old. Well, for what they're doing, it's a cool bottle. Comes in because it means bend in the river. So they make this canteen-shaped bottle, which is the only bottle on the market that looks like this. They're really cool guys on them. But yeah, this is batch 1. I think this is a really nice product. So I'm interested to see what you think of this, being as young as it is, and that it's a 4 grain.
It definitely smells like Texas.
We have a batch 3.
Definitely get all 4 grains on the nose. Depending on where you snip glass.
Yeah. Yeah, this smells much more bready to me than the first, I guess, the other samples I've had.
Like doughy or like uncooked bread or cooked bread?
Interesting.
Did you say bright or bread?
No, bread. Yeah, it's more doughy to me. More doughy bread.
Yeah, and I actually
that's the
say
wheat.
like a yeast, like a yeasty note.
So I get a sweet doughy on wheat a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You said sweet, and now I'm getting like sweet bread.
Yeah.
Like monkey bread?
Yeah, like. Now I'm getting like the cinnamon notes are starting to show up, and some of the darker, almost molasses.
Yeah, we found with this one when we reviewed it, the longer that you let it sit, the more complex it gets on the nose.
Which is
You
pretty.
can really start to actually smell all the barrel, all the different grains pop out.
Yeah, that's impressive for only 14 months too to get that out of a glass.
I love Eric's thing. If you put it in the mirror, it spells hat.
Thanks, Eric.
So it's funny though. So you said at Christmas time it's gonna come out with a satchel and with a little cup, so that can be the whiskey hat. So it works out perfect.
Yeah.
But then Donald wants to know, and Robert may know the answer to this. What would be the difference between a 100% unmalted rye versus 100% malted rye? He says, my current favorite is a Lot 40. It's 100% unmalted. It has no anise or dill flavor. So what is it between that one, Robert?
Malted, typically unmalted rye is what's used. I think we've seen more malted rye appear mostly with craft distilleries or smaller distillers. Honestly, malted rye is not my favorite flavor personally. Some people love it, but it's not my thing. When you think of more classic rye, that's going to typically be not unmalted rye. And again, it's where you can get a lot of either that licorice or that dill notes. It's going to be determined on the species of rye that's distilled from, how it's distilled, and the yeast that's used. I mean, those kind of combination of things. That's why, like MGP rye typically has a ton of dill to it, especially if you get that 95%. It has to do with the rye that they're using and the yeast that they use. That's going to really amplify some of those notes. Some of the Canadians, again, the Canadians will distill much cleaner than American distilleries. They make much lighter distillate typically. They're going to distill it much higher, just because different rules that they have. And again, it all depends on which distillery of the specifics of what you're getting on it. So it's hard to give you any specifics on that without actually knowing the distillery and knowing their exact processes, which, again, I try to learn as much as I can about all the different distilleries, but there's so many distilleries, it's tough to know everything. But typically, Canadian distillates can be distilled much higher, again, up to 170, 180, that area, that proof, and it's gonna be much cleaner cut, and so it's typically not going to pick up as much of those herbal or like dill characteristics.
Sorry, we're giggling about some comments that have been coming through.
Bill, I love
Bill and Eric is hilarious.
that. Just go ahead
On the
and
Discord,
picture
later on,
of that.
Picture of that. That'd be super.
But yeah, I think for what this whiskey is, I really enjoy this whiskey for as young as it is. I mean, hell, my bottle's almost gone, so that tells you how much I like this whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. So I've taken this to a few places. I took a bottle up to Oklahoma to my brother for his housewarming party, and everybody loved it up there too. So it's done well the places I've taken it to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely drinks much older than 14 months.
Yeah,
And the older stuff is made much
like
better, too.
19 months, I think. Some of the older stuff.
Mhm.
Right.
It's
Our batch,
really good.
our batch 3, I think, is ringing in at like 19 months. But their older stuff, the stuff that they have sitting in a barrel and the stuff that they're planning on leaving in for the rest of the summer, this summer, they have a rye, they have a malted rye, and then a couple of bourbons that they're going to be doing that going to age for a second summer. And those are really, really good. As of right now, I'm hoping they're going to get even better over the summer. So,
Yeah, the rye samples that I've had have been fantastic from them.
yeah, they're very, very interesting. And again, just very atypical ryes. And they're using a malted rye, which is, again, atypical and not what we've seen. But
Hey, so Cast Strength, Josh Galladay just joined in, and
What's up, Josh?
the Bourbon Buddies, they just joined in. Excellent.
Very nice. I like this one. I really like this one. It's
I
not
like our Monday live streams. They're like a meeting of the whiskey groups.
Seriously.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
never know this thing's 96, that this is 96. I mean, it tastes way smoother than a 96.
yeah.
It's like,
Honestly, I just hit around.
it's sneaky up.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully come October, I can get Justin to give us some of the cast strength stuff and have you try that too, all down in Austin.
Yeah, I can't
That'd
wait
be
until we can get our hands on that.
Yeah, we should, Matt, before we head down to Austin, we should maybe hit up a couple of the distilleries around us and see if the ones that aren't going to make the trip,
They want to make some donations.
yeah, bring the bottles and we'll donate them to the.
I have no doubt they can make a donation to the La Quinta party.
There you go. That's what I was going to say.
Hey, it gets their whiskeys spread around. People from
Yeah.
all over can be there.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's a nice comment, Josh. I love that. That's hilarious. That's nice. All right, so what do you move on to now?
Let's grab
We don't
blind.
have too much longer before it's almost time for us to wrap up because we got to get to work early in the morning. So let's do maybe one or two more real quick.
All right. This is Herman Marshall.
Oh,
Yay.
yay.
Sam Darnold.
St.
All
Arnold
right.
Reserve.
Yeah,
I
so
can't read your handwriting.
Herman Marshall St. Arnold Divine Reserve number 16. It's a single malt whiskey. This is 101 proof. This is out near Dallas, in Garland, Texas. But yeah, this is I'm interested what you think of this. This is a very unique whiskey that's a single malt in Texas. I think this is the best product they've ever made, personally.
Wow.
I actually agree with you.
Yeah,
And I love their products most of the time, but this is my favorite that they've done so far.
They did do another beer release, and it just wasn't. It was good, just was not as good.
Yeah, the temptress is interesting, but it's got a lot of beer funk on it.
It was
Right.
very hoppy.
This is a beer. This is St. Arnold Divine Reserve, which is made down in Houston area, that they took and distilled over at Herman Marshall. He's a Garland distiller here in the DFW area. He took that Divine Reserve and distilled it and put it in new oak. Aged it for a little over 2 years, or just under 2 years, I think is what it was. And it's just a very unique and very interesting 22 months, so just under 2 years.
Okay.
And there's a distillery that this reminds me of, actually two,
Too.
that I think that this is kind of a cross between. And I'm wondering, without me saying it, I'd like to know if you hit those two, or if you're anywhere, if you feel the same way.
Putting him on the spot. I like it.
Yeah. I don't
I
know.
put these three up in a lineup without knowing which one was which, and it was maybe 5-10% difference in the three.
Oh, really?
One of them was an actual Scotch. The other one was an American.
Yeah, the Scotch, I'd have no idea. I don't have enough experience with that. On the nose, though, it definitely doesn't smell like a normal single malt. Again, it's much more. To me, it's much more towards the American whiskey profile. It still smells like a. I mean, it still smells like a single malt, but you can tell there's something more going on there than a standard single malt. You know.
I think Bill's trying to get us all arrested coming October. I'm not good with that. We not want to get arrested. It's not good. Oh, thanks, Sandy. Appreciate
Do you guys know? Do they age it in new barrels or is it in used casks?
I'm pretty sure it's new.
That'd explain more of those barrel notes coming out then.
It says single malt whiskey on the label. Yeah, aged in new white oak. Yeah, in order to be called a single malt, it has to go into new.
It's a very interesting whiskey, which is why I sent it to you.
Ooh.
I love it. Kilojolt says the whiskey day is going to super chat for Bale in Austin. That's awesome. He's streaming live from the drunk tank at the Austin jail.
Yeah,
I don't think Daniel Rex would be happy with us at all if we did that shit. A terrible plan.
So what type of notes do you got this one?
Well, the finish on this, it definitely tastes like a single malt now, but I have not had enough. I don't think I've had enough Scotch to know where it comes from. The aftertaste is something I haven't experienced before, so I don't know.
That's the Herman Marshall funk, and I say it because I love Herman
It's
Marshall.
got a funk.
But there is a funkiness to Herman's products that I get on his entire range.
Yep.
It's just kind of his distillery profile. But I've grown to love it, and I don't know if that's just because I love him or just because I do love it. But it's there's a funkiness to it. I won't disagree with you.
To that, it reminds me of the Stranahan's Diamond. Kind of has the same funk, but the overall profile of it is very similar to the Stranahan's Diamond, but also the Classic Laddie. I don't know if you're familiar with
the Brook. There's almost a brine. There's almost that seaside there.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Now that you say it, I mean,
yeah. The first sip that I had of this, I was like, "Whoa, this is like two different things in one glass." It's an excellent job they did with it.
And I mix a 50-50 of Stranahan's and the Brook Laddie, Classic Laddie, and it really does taste 5% different than this.
I think the Classic Laddie is like once you put it on your palate, that's where it just tastes like the Classic Laddie. But then the finish leaves that aftertaste that's different, whatever that difference is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that kind of Stranahan's aftertaste, that craft aftertaste. So to speak, which a lot of distilleries have gotten away from. Thank you, Robert. But some of them have.
We try our best. Try our best.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you attribute that to?
I think I have ideas of where some of that came from.
I always thought water, but the way you're talking water, it's
not from water. I think it has a lot more to do with how they're mashing grains. Especially, I think some distilleries are mashing, and a lot of the husks and stuff are left on some of the the rye and the wheat, and so you get a lot of kind of weird tannin from that when you leave all that in there. Versus, I think some distilleries are doing flake, and some of the big guys they do some different processing methods. So I personally think that there's some of that's attributed to kind of how the grain is being processed at different distilleries.
Poor Bill, let's leave the hot tub. Piece of coming in. Poor Bill.
Let's see. Andy asked me, with the new ruling on out-of-state store ownership, will that help us? How would that impact shipping laws? Again, we're still waiting to see what the full kind of fallout of that is. Whether you can ship over state lines or, kind of what the rules are with that. As far as with Tennessee, it means kind of more of the expansion of Total Wine and some of these other bigger liquor stores, which can be, again, it's tough to say what the actual impact is going to be. If more people that do online shopping, like if I could sell online, that'd be really cool. That'd be helpful.
Yeah,
but Texas sucks.
It would be nice. But at the same time, if most people are doing their shopping off of Amazon or like the Total Wine website rather than going into stores, it's much harder to introduce your product to new people. Where right now, if I'm standing there doing a tasting at a liquor store, someone can walk in that's never heard of us and they can taste the product right then and there. Whereas like you've never tasted something before, a lot less likely to especially for something that's $50, really drop that money on something that you may or may not like. So
that's what us tasting channels are here for, Robert.
Exactly. That's why I love you guys. So yeah. But yeah, so I think so for us, shipping could be helpful but also could be harmful to newer, younger brands. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. There's probably only a couple left in your box, probably at this point, Chris. What else you got?
I've got 2 more left. I've got the Ranger.
Let's just finish those 2 then. It's perfect.
All right. Ranger Creek and Banner Wheat.
Yeah, Banner's a wheat whiskey. It's a 95% wheat, 5% malted barley. You want to do the wheat or do the bourbon?
This is the wheat.
Let's do the wheat. So this is Banner. We actually took a tour of them. We went to SOM class in April. We all went down there and we took a tour of them and watched it. We actually put out a video on Banner. So this is a cool distillery. They a couple guys, zero debt. Their distillery is about the size of my bar, which is
it's
cool.
tiny.
It's tiny, but they make really nice. They make good whiskey though. It's a little place.
They make good vodka too.
They do make good vodka.
It's a little place, literally in the middle of nowhere, Texas.
Country.
And they need like their poor little road to their distillery is so bad. It may be the worst road I've ever been on in my life. You can't even drive down the middle of this road because your car bottoms out on it. It's so bad. It's got their city needs to help them. Please, for the love of God, Manor, Texas, build your distillery a real freaking road.
Seriously.
But totally worth going there. Their whiskey's really good. I really like the stuff a lot. The owners are awesome. Cool little place. They guess they were back in the day. They did some basically bootleg whiskey back during Prohibition. Their families did, so it's cool stuff. One's a chemical engineer. They're both chemical engineers. Cool stuff. They were coming out of there, but yeah, this is a really nice whiskey for what it is, and this is so I want to see what you think of it.
It definitely smells like a wheat whiskey. That's for sure.
Yep.
Super sweet, super pungent.
Caramel scent. Smells. Yeah. It smells pretty good though. I'm still getting like brininess on this. Maybe that's from the last whiskey.
I can get behind the saltiness on this one.
I think you're actually right.
Yeah, and our bottle's been sitting for a while. I mean, it's about halfway through.
Yeah, it's sweet and salty.
Maybe it's
like a salted.
Maybe it's like a salted caramel.
Exactly. It's exactly what I get.
Pretzel.
Yeah.
Yep.
When we did the review on this one on its own, it's basically an old fashioned in a whiskey.
Robert, have you come across this guy before?
I have actually. I met them probably about six years ago when they were just under construction. So yeah, it's been known them for a long time. Really great people down there. I haven't had it. I guess the last time I had their whiskey was probably about 3 years ago. I want to say is the bottle that we have up at the distillery. But yeah, I think it's really fun what they're doing. They're really into playing around and experimenting, which again is always close to my heart, and I really enjoy the distilleries that do that. really testing things out and experimenting. So again, I'm really, really excited to see what they do as they kind of grow and, and play around more. So
Plenty of space.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that
that's true.
try new things, and the little stills they use are cool. But the fact they got a cask strength, they got a lot of barrel fit, like beer barrel finishes that are just distillery only that are really good.
Yeah.
This is a cool place. I mean, if any of you guys go down there and get a chance to go to Banner, it's completely worth it. There's an awesome little distillery there out in Maynard, Texas.
I think we need to re-review this now that it's been open for a while.
I like this stuff a lot.
Might not do them justice.
This is good whiskey. This is
Really.
Yeah,
it'd be fun to sit down and taste that versus the Lone Elm wheat whiskey.
We should do that. I need to talk to Brandon again and get him over here to do the Lone Elm stuff. I need to talk to him again about getting that taken care of with them. I'll text him tomorrow again and say, when are you going to come out here?
Yeah, give him a hard time.
Yeah, I can give you that because I am going to give him a hard time because we need him out here. I want to go out to the distillery and film, but I also want him to come out here and do a tasting because I can't. It's too far from here to people to go out there on their own. If we try, we'll get like 10 people. If he comes here, I can get 30 or 40.
Right.
It just depends on the day with him. It's like 55 miles away. I like what they have. I've tried the regular one, but I have not tried the cask strength.
Cask strengths, I really enjoy the cask strength.
That one's really good. Okay, cool. Good to know. Yeah, I have the regular one. I like it. It's a really interesting wheat. It's really smoky, I thought, from what I remember of. I haven't had it in a while, but I thought it was good. I'd love to get out here and do an event with them for sure. I will ask Brandon tomorrow.
I think this is only the second time I've ever had Ranger Creek bourbon.
Oh, you already moved on to the Ranger Creek?
Yeah, we gotta sign off here pretty soon.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. You don't necessarily have to, but
Okay.
We don't have to go anywhere. We can hang out till whenever.
Yeah, 5 a.m.
They do because Sarah has to get work very, very early.
The butt crack of dawn.
Yeah, if they have to go, no problem. We can still hang until whenever you're ready.
This one to me has that young funk.
All right, so if you move on to Ranger Creek,
absolutely.
Ranger Creek is a 9 month. No, this one is 11 months.
Okay,
and it tastes. It's a good, but it's pretty woody. It's that new young sawdust on it.
Yeah,
and these use really small barrels. This is a spring of 16, so this is an older one. But it's a decent whiskey. I like it. They have new 750s that are bigger barrels I have not tried. It is 96 proof, so it's a higher proof. But basically comes in these tiny little barrels. In tiny bottles.
Yeah.
he's yawning.
It's fine.
Man, still recovering from last night.
Yeah, everyone doesn't know. We filmed our barbecue episode yesterday. Probably involved between 30 and 40 whiskeys.
Probably 45 to 60.
Oh man,
6 hours or so to film.
It wasn't.
It was really fun, but we were pretty.
It was a lot of.
We were pretty toasted after the end of it.
It was so good, though.
It was so good. Yeah. So Pit Face Barbecue is who we did with it yesterday, and that was a good fun time for sure. And thank God my buddy who owns them lives down the street. Thank God. So that worked out really well. We had some amazing barbecue yesterday. So I can't wait for those episodes to come out here in the next few weeks.
Barbecue. That's what I'm so looking forward to come October.
Oh yeah, you're gonna. Yeah, we'll take
for a treat.
Really good barbecue place right here. Hell, we should have Brian bring us some meat. I'll have send some meat with us.
Yep.
Ooh, maybe we get Brian to come down to La Quinta and cater La Quinta.
There you go.
Barbecue style.
Oh, I'm bringing bacon to La Quinta, that's for sure.
I'm bringing
bacon. I'll talk to Brian about that tomorrow.
Bringing home the bacon.
Of bacon.
Yep.
So I guess, Chris, now that you've tried all of these Texas whiskeys, what's your opinion of Texas whiskey overall right now?
Oh man, it's unlike any other bourbon or American whiskey you can ever describe. It's so unique, but in the best of ways. Honestly, it's great. Very distinct flavor profile, I think. For most, but the single malts and the whiskeys or bourbons, they still all have that same, I guess, Texas profile. How I describe it. So very good. Honestly, like my favorite of all of them was honestly the Icarus. That's the absolute truth. Like, I'm not just saying that.
Too nice. I appreciate that.
No, I'm not just saying that. Like, the absolute, like we talked about this the other night, like the absolute roller coaster of flavors that go on in your mouth during that pour is ridiculous. It's like 3 or 4 layers just on your tongue. So that was my favorite, but the Balcones expressions were really good too.
They do a great job. But yeah, I love their stuff.
Texas has got some really good whiskey.
Yeah.
And it's just still growing too.
Yeah. Like you were saying, like, so early on in even discovering what Texas can have to offer in the future. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
A really young funk on that.
Oh yeah.
The future's bright for sure.
Just think of the potential. Like
because what's the oldest Texas? What 2008? 8 was the first whiskey that came out of Texas. Hey, Bill, what's up?
Oh my God!
Hey.
Not in the shower.
Not in the shower.
Oh God.
Oh God, no.
Oh no.
All right, bye.
And the video just got demonetized. There you go.
Yeah.
We're not monetized yet. It's cool.
Oh God.
It's not after hours yet.
It is for Bill. Oh, that's hilarious.
It's always after hours for Bill.
I mean, the way Bill was panning that camera up, I couldn't tell if the top of his bald head was his head or something else.
Other things.
Oh, that's funny. Pretty sure Bill was in the shower. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was Shower Cam Bill. Did you not read?
Thanks, Bill.
Good
Appreciate
stuff.
that. That's hilarious.
He said he wanted the Shower Cam link. You sent him the link, Matt. Come on.
Oh, that was funny as shit, though.
Read the previous comment.
Yeah.
Totally worth it, though, because it's funny.
Heard that. All right. Well, that was a fun Texas Whiskey Night Part 2.
Yeah.
I are signing off. I've got edits to do. She's got.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on with you. Let me crash your channel for a couple of days. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming, Robert. Really appreciate it. This was
Absolutely.
a good
Anytime.
time.
Welcome. Awesome.
Do you know how much funk was in that? You're going to put that in our Infinity?
Yep.
Oh, gross.
Later. Don't you dare.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but probably the weirdest of all of them we tried, and the least favorite is probably Ranger Creek. Sorry to them.
Yeah. It had
I really enjoyed their single malt when I was early on in my journey. That was one of the Texas single malts that really stuck out to me.
It's got funk.
But
I think everything else we've had is better. I don't know anyone at Ranger Creek. I mean, I'm more than happy to talk to them and love to try some of this. I have older. I don't have their newer stuff. Like I said, this stuff's from 3 years ago. I'd love to try their newer stuff and see if it's better. Maybe Josh knows somebody there. I'm open.
Opening. Matt, it wasn't last year at the distillery opening.
No.
It was young and funky at the distillery opening last year.
Yeah, it's some weird shit.
Yeah, I remember.
It gets better. Let's see. Is what it is. Good news is, thank God for Ironroot and Balcones because they make amazing stuff.
Thank God for Ironroot and Balcones.
Yeah, and we got Tom and Carol
and all my other Garrison and everybody else on the trail.
Yeah. So so what's your overall thoughts on Texas whiskey?
I think it's great, honestly. All of them. I mean, I'm amazed at the youth and the flavors you guys can get out of the youth. I think that's the most eye-opening. Like a 3-year bourbon out of Kentucky, and it's like it's disgusting usually, you know, and especially these craft distilleries that are even younger around like Michigan. You get something that young, it's just like rubbing alcohol and acetone. That's it. You can't get anything else out of it.
Right.
So I think the climate just works really well for Texas whiskey, and the flavors you're getting from the barrel and the whiskey alone, it's great. I mean, the smokiness, I love that. I love that note. So.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate trying a bunch of Texas whiskeys with us, and I'd love to return a favor and do a bunch of Michigan whiskeys. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple of them I'd be happy to send you. So we'll definitely do a couple a Michigan night for sure.
Yes, I've got the a bunch of the Traverse City, and I got one of the Isle of Rye from Grand Traverse, which I think is fantastic. So I think there's some really cool stuff coming out of Michigan as well in the future here. So I want to tell everybody So where can we find you at, Chris? Let everybody know where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bourbinsane on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Still doing live streams every week, best I can. Now the work's throwing off my whole schedule. Fortunately, I got to work still. You know, whiskey unfortunately comes second, but that's all right. That's all right. Still doing a couple videos a week though. Check me out. I appreciate you guys all watching. Awesome night, and thank you so much for all the samples. It was incredible.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Robert, what's your last thing about Ironroot?
You guys can find me chained to the still most times up in Texas. Yeah, come up, visit, take a tour. We do tours every Saturday at 1. Again, if not, come join us down in October at the Bastards Ball down in Austin. Or so we always doing tastings. If you're in the Austin area, the Gala Days are rocking that area out for us right now. So thanks to them, and come say hi sometime.
Yeah.
We'll be back on again next Monday night. Have a new review out next Monday as well. We'll have our barbecue and whiskey pairings out here in the next few weeks. Our Sagamore barrel, unfortunately, has been delayed till mid-August, but it's definitely coming. They got label approval and everything for it. It will be coming out soon. We'll also be filming a coffee and whiskey episode very soon. So check all that out, and we'll see you guys next Monday. All right, thank you guys very much. Thanks for everybody joining us, and we'll see you guys in a week.
Cheers,
Awesome.
guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That is really good.
Still live.